Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. Good to see you, Justin.
Yeah, good to see you too. Good to be in the audio presence of anybody listening. I guess that's another way you could say good to see you, lovely listeners.
Absolutely. It's always good to be back for another week. We're recording on Wednesday, July 14th, so back to our regularly scheduled day after last week being a day later than usual. So yeah, how's your past week been, Justin?
My past week has been pretty good, I would say. A little bit of a meh moment, but we can talk about that. That's my thorn for the week here. Do you kind of want to get right into it because it's kind of funny, kind of like really shitty.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely down. So I guess lead us off into your rose, thorn, and seed for the week.
All right, so my rose, I'll make this quick, but I was very excited about it. So as I'm sure you remember, me and you had some conversations at length about Valorant and what it is to play that game, the elements that make it hard, the elements that we like about it, and yada yada.
Yep.
There was a game session where I couldn't stop telling myself that I should end things based on my quality of play, and you said, Justin, that's probably not good. And I said, I think you're right. So I stepped away. I reframed a little bit. Fast forward to like this past weekend sometime. I got my first ace, killing all 5 members of the enemy team. Fucking for the match win, brother.
Dude,
for the match win.
Couldn't have come at a better time.
Dude, I know. It was sweet. But I say that to say, like, I have significantly improved. I feel like I understand the game. I get the maps. I know what's going on. I'm finally not going like 9-30 in a game. It feels pretty good, man.
That's awesome. I think sometimes that's good to just take a mental break, reset in a lot of aspects of life, whether it's gaming or otherwise. Sometimes you just have to kind of refresh yourself, get yourself into the right perspective. I've done that with Warzone a couple times where I've taken a week off here and there just because I was like, I need a break. I was getting frustrated. I was like not having a good time. And if I'm playing games with friends and everything, the goal is to have fun. So
ultimately, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's definitely awesome, one, that you're able to reframe it so that you can have a little bit more fun, but also, two, that like you're starting to kind of be refreshed and look at things a little differently and play a little bit better and progress a little bit in the game as well. So
yeah, in a way where like not only is it more fun, but because I'm having more fun, I'm playing better, and then it just like bootstraps on itself.
Yeah, I think that frustration can kind of hold you back from actually like gaining things from like you can just keep. Well, I mean, like in League, like if I would go on, there were plenty of times I went a lot on lost streaks in ranked matches, and I wasn't learning anything. I was just like just hoping that next game would be a win instead of a loss. Like I wasn't.
Right.
I was just beating my head against the wall and hoping that I'd break through eventually instead of like, backing out, grabbing the right tools and figuring it out and being like, oh, okay, like this is what I need to do. So
sure. And then it almost becomes an element of like almost gambling in a way where you're not playing the game like with your head, you're playing it with your heart, and your heart is hurting because you're losing, and like that's not a good time, right? That's not a good time.
And also gambling in a like you're just like hoping that it's more that you're hoping the other team will be worse than you, not that you're gonna play better than them kind of thing. So
and then there's the element of wanting to eschew the challenge, so you just want the free, easy dub. You're not even there for, you're not there to improve or learn anything or go against, worthy opponents, you would say. So yeah, it's like this whole rabbit hole of, I think, bad
spiral,
mental. Yeah. So bad mental, I'll use this to jump into my thorn. So we were at dinner for my mother's birthday, and my sister was going into telling a story about her like clients at the restaurant, or like visitors, whatever. And and she, like, as she was going into the story, as like mean people usually do, she does the like look around, the lean in, and like, a table of ethnic people, she said. And I looked at her, I was like, what are you doing? And I literally called her out for it. And
Good.
my mom, and Sarah and her boyfriend's son is sitting next to her, and mind you, like, he's a little brown kid. I'm not sure where exactly he's from, but he's like, he would be exactly the kind of person that my sister was referencing. I was like, dude, like, what are you talking about? Like, let's not be like hateful here.
Yeah.
And she goes into this whole blah 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 blah, this whole tirade, effectively like justifying her racism and why it's okay for her to hate these people. And I was like, listen, man, there's a whole bunch of like holes there. I, showed a couple of them, and all anybody wanted to say, my mom, her, and all anybody wanted to say was, "Oh, Justin, just keep it down, just keep it down." Oh, you don't want this whole restaurant to hear that your daughter's a fucking racist? And my mom said something totally crazy, and I just had to sit back after the whole conversation and just think, like, oh my god, like really, in my own home, in my own family.
Yeah.
And I was so disappointed, so ashamed, embarrassed. Like, I don't know if I've ever felt that particular concoction of emotions.
Yeah.
And then I was left feeling bad, because I was like, oh, and here I am, like, calling them out on at my mother's birthday dinner, and like, I'm the asshole and this and that, and I kept going back and forth in my head, like, no, 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 no,
Good.
no. I have to, like, you have to take a stand on something, and that was it, man. I was like, Lindsay, you are being a right cunt right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was, dude. Dude, to the degree I've had thoughts about, like, I don't want to go to a family dinner. Like, I don't want to just, I don't want any parts of that, man. It was so crazy, bro.
That's
Thorn in my side.
That is wild. And like, I just can't imagine, like, yeah, the frustration, but at the same time, like, I guess on the positive side of it for you, one, you broke the cycle a little bit, because like, if your family is acting like that and you are actively calling them out and like recognizing the wrongness in what they're doing, that's like, that's a lot. Like, a lot of people.
Dude, I hope it is, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Also,
like,
hold on just 2 seconds. For whatever reason, I just realized that my video is flipped right now, so this is gonna be weird. Yeah,
I noticed that, and I didn't know if you had like a different camera setup or whatever.
No,
that's funny.
I must have accidentally hit a button on my thing when I was getting it started up. So, whoops. Anywho, though,
that's
like,
kind of funny.
yeah, like, I don't know, like, I think it's a really difficult thing to, because like, your sister grew up with the same parents, the same family environment that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe had different friends, some different things in her life, obviously, that have gotten her to where she is now, compared to you. But she had a very similar upbringing, and that's how she turned out. You coming up through that same upbringing are calling her out for being racist, and not only doing it like in private, like, hey, Lindsay, like, what you were saying back there, really not great or whatever. You were like in the moment, like, yo, this is not okay. And that's like if you are like having to be like, hush, hush, talk quietly, whatever, then like whatever you're saying is not an okay thing to say. And it's not that it's not an okay thing to say because like, oh, other people might disagree. You're saying it quietly and whispering or like beating around the bush because what you're saying is not right and you're like almost semi-embarrassed to be saying it that way, but like not embarrassed enough to not think that way.
Right.
So that's the positive, is that you have like become the person you are, who is calling that shit out, because you have, like, that's the right thing to do.
I'm with you, and I just hope that, and like for my sister specifically, this is like strike number 2. This is 2 times within each time that I'm seeing her in the 2 most recent times where I'm actively having to like call her out on something and say like, dude, like stop, that's not okay. And I really hope it like just gets through to her, because like she's going to say that around the wrong company, and it's not going to be as friendly as me telling her to shut the fuck up, right?
Oh, 100%. And especially like
she's going to deserve it.
Yeah, well, and the fact that you said that like her boyfriend's child has some sort of mixed ethnicity, whatever it is, like that child should not be hearing mother figure, second mother figure, whatever the situation is, I don't know, saying things like that, because that's going to make them look down on their own. And that's just a negative, like, self-thought patterns. I'm not finding the right words, but like it's going to make them think worse about themselves for something that's out of their control, which is just a completely unreasonable and not okay thing. Like, you would think in 2021 that like racism and things like that would not be as prevalent as they are. And there goes my video. I wasn't as quick this time bringing it back up, but kind of quick.
I'm surprised that you can just get it working so quickly again, though. That's useful.
I just know how I've figured out what I need to do it. So hopefully we're good. But yeah. Like it's just negative for that child, and like no child
just
should
like
have
the
to feel
family
like that.
unit, you know, like for her, you know, the boyfriend and the kid. It's just like,
is the boyfriend another ethnicity, or was the person he had like the woman he was with?
I think like I'm not 100% sure. I want to say they're like, I want to say he's like, I don't even know.
Because it could he be like, also like if she's saying that and he is of a different ethnicity or of some sort, like what's he thinking when his girlfriend is like bringing this stuff up too?
It's just all shitty, and so I don't want to handle it.
Sucks, man. That's a tough position to put you in, but like it sounds like you handled it as best you could and like the right way. Like it's
I'm just nervous. Like I'm just nervous moving forward, because like this may be like a larger issue, but I feel like my family is seeing elements of the person that I've grown into, and by virtue of who they are, they don't like it, right? And they're like, and I think that's hard for them to reconcile, where previously, like, oh, I was just a pincushion. They could say whatever they want. I'll just like laugh and blah, blah, blah. But no, if you're coming at me with some shit-talking energy now, I'm going to shut that down right away. Like at another family gathering, like that's what my sister did. I told her, "Hey, shut the fuck up. That's not nice. Don't do that." Same with this, but I just hope that they see it as I'm just trying to make them better people and maybe think in a more reasonable, healthy way. And I'm not trying to I'm not trying to criminalize them. I just want to
Well, you want
I
them to
just
think
I
about the things that they're saying and like
yes. Yes.
recognize what is right and what is wrong with it. Like that's definitely like important.
Dude, I agree, and I just think there's going to be some rocky road ahead from their perspective in relation to me. I think is all because hopefully they don't need too many like re corrections
Well,
because that would just get shitty and I would stop doing it.
and hopefully you don't have to like distance yourself from your family because of those kinds of things either, because that
Right.
could also be a repercussion. Is like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I don't know if I want to go to family dinners and stuff like that. If this
Mm-hmm.
is how like you don't want to be associated with people that are acting that way,
Right.
like
Right.
whether they're family or not. Like you don't want that, like, not blowback, but you don't want people looking at you and being like, oh, like
Guilty by association,
these are your
dude.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
like
That's dude. That's yeah, 100%,
yeah,
100%.
that's a shitty spot to be in.
Yep,
Like,
yep.
oh, that's a
So
fucking
yeah,
rough thorn, my guy.
fucking sat that shit down though.
Yeah.
Dude, I will not stand for it. I really will not. And I will give here. I'll give you a little tidbit. So the author of the Gulag Archipelago, I'm pretty sure his last name is Solzhenitsyn. The idea of it was like he was trying to explore like communist Russia, like what
Mm.
happened in the gulags and all that kind of stuff. So the like one of his basic ideas in this thing, one of the basic ideas is he wanted to look at like what his like what he did within the greater nation of Russia. What actions did he take that allowed or at least contributed to the fall of it, and like how was he implicit in all this hate and blah 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 that went in within communist Russia.
Mm.
And I heard that idea a little while ago, but with everything that's been happening recently, it's popped back into my head, and I've thought like, what can I do to not like to not be a thing that propagates the system by like either turning a cheek
Mm.
or by like actively participating.
Yeah.
And like this is a situation where I could have turned my cheek. I did not. I said fuck you, Lindsay.
Yeah, well, and that's like also on the side of so like for instance, like the all the racism stuff going on in America right now, the Black Lives Matter movement and everything. Like it was something that I recognized more like about a year ago when I was like going to I went to Black Lives Matter protest in Philadelphia. I was like really trying to understand it more as a white person and be more knowledgeable of like my and more cognizant of my like white privilege, like because I have been pulled over by police officers a number of times. I've never gotten a speeding ticket. I've never gotten a ticket in general from being pulled over. And like those are not so that's not something that happens to a lot of people just because their skin color is different than mine. And so
Right.
like from that I was really looking and started to understand that there's a difference between not being racist and like actively like calling out racism and going against people who are doing or saying racist things. And so like
But I think the second one is a lot harder, actually.
it's so much harder. It's easy
Mhm.
to not be racist. I mean, the fact that racism still exists, it blows my mind because it's really easy to like I base people like based on how they act. If you're a dick towards me, then yeah, I think you're a dick. But it doesn't have anything to do with what you look like. Like
Right.
what you look like typically just means that you've grown up with different experiences than mine because there's racism in the world. Like, it's not like I don't like people that are assholes, and that has nothing to do with anything other than how you act towards people. So, like, it's very easy to just not be racist, but if you're not calling things out when they happen, like, you're not making the system better. You're just allowing
You're just
people
letting that to continue.
Yeah, and it's almost like it almost encourages that attitude in a way because no one's telling them that it's wrong. Like, so
which like,
you're not
confirms the bias,
right? Exactly. That's exactly it. And so, like, and that's something that I've learned, like, more about and, like, researched and tried to listen to people with different experiences than mine so I can grow and, like, be just a better human being. But, like, that's like, that's fucking tough to do. So that's a rough spot to be in.
Gonna have to chop her head off the next time she does it.
3 strikes and you're out of this earth.
Like, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, dude. She's got one more. All right, so yeah, big thorn. Overall, just be nice to people, man. If people are being mean around you, shut it down or walk away.
Yeah.
That is my advice for the episode. Anyway, my seed, other than planting, anti-racist seeds narrative is, I think, the word I was looking for. I had a conversation with a client yesterday that we've been, like, making some really good progress, like, physically, and I was kind of laying out some ways that he's going to be able to accomplish kind of the next step and laying out what the next steps are and this and that. So I think it was a bit of a breakthrough appointment with him, and I think hopefully we're going to be on the road to recovery better than we have been. We're gonna start incorporating, like, some more stretches, strengthening exercises, things like this. So yeah, hopefully that's going well. So that's the seed that we planted yesterday, along with our anti-hatred today. What is your rose thorn seed, Aaron?
So my rose, I guess, it starts out, so on Monday, the property that I'm at right now is in Northeast Philly. So on Monday, we had what the news and weather people were calling a 100-year storm. So, and it wasn't, like, widespread in the area. Like, you guys probably got no rain where you're at, like, on Monday. But this was, like, torrential downpour, extreme flash flooding, 10 inches of rain in about 4 hours of time. Like, wow. It was ridiculous. And the property I'm at right now is right along the Delaware River. So, like, we had some extreme flooding. My, like, car driving home, I got out just before everything started flooding out, but I was driving through tons of water on my way home and everything, to the point that I thought I had damaged my car. All is good with my car. But when I came in on Tuesday, I was like, this is gonna be terrible. I'm like, this storm was insane. It probably flooded out so many things. Like, I have pictures of what the property looked like during it from the maintenance guys who were on site and from some of the people the maintenance staff that, like, live there at the property. It was bad. Like, our whole maintenance shop was, like, basically underwater. Rose, when I came into work, like, things really were not as bad as I expected them to be. Like, we were able to like, teamwork the shit out of it and, like, split up, conquer by, like, sending teams to check out all the different places that got hit really hard, figure out what we needed to do, and through the power of teamwork and friendship, we were able to like get things in pretty good order. Like by about 2 p.m. yesterday, I was like, okay, like we checked off everything on our list that we needed to attend to immediately. Like now there's still some work that'll need to be done over the next few days, but I was like, that went much, much better than I expected. So that was my rose, because I was really expecting that to be like terrible and like spend my entire day and possibly the next day and the next day and the next day like working on this.
Jesus, man.
So it was it was insane. And so they called it a 100-year storm because there's a 1% chance of like that kind of storm basically like happening
every 100 years.
Well, just in general. So like 1 in 100 chance of it happening. So they're like, if you have 100 years, you're only likely to have like one of these storms, just based on like the percentages kind of thing. So,
gotcha.
So yeah, it was much better than expected. So a little bit of it could have been a thorn, ended up being a rose. I kind of prepared for the worst and things worked out. So I couldn't be mad at it. My thorn, however, was this terrible, terrible human being. Like I said a minute ago, I dislike people based on how they act and how they treat other people. And this lady is a see you next Tuesday if I have ever seen one. And it's just such a stupid thing. Like, end of last week, she let us know her washing machine in her apartment wasn't working. Our maintenance guy went out, checked it out, was like, I can't fix this. We're going to have to give you a different washer. Like, we will get you a different washer on Monday. Over the weekend, she sends an email, like, kind of tirade that's like, I expect to have a brand new washing machine, and this is ridiculous, and blah, 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 blah. And I did not have a brand new washing machine to give her, and also with the attitude that she gave in the email she sent, I did not want to give her a brand new washing machine.
Right.
However, we did have a washing machine that was used, but it was functional, good condition. It's not rusted. It's not ugly looking. It's literally like a newer washing machine than what she had that actually works. And so sent our guys over there, and she calls the office and is freaking out because it's not a brand new machine. She's like, this isn't in a box. I know it's not new. She's like getting all upset, like starts like crying on the phone with the front office person. And so the office person's like, hey, Aaron, like, can you take this phone call? It's this lady. She's like upset. So I'm like, sure. Send her on through. Mr. Customer Service right here. Let's go. Let's have at it. Because I'm typically very good at handling those kinds of things, calming the situation down.
Well, that's why they have you there, right?
It's part of it, definitely. It's part of why I work in this industry, because I'm pretty good with people. So I pick up the phone, like, hi. She's like, I don't know what like kind of people you are hiring here, and like, I don't know who the fuck this maintenance guy thinks he is, but he is not. He is terrible, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and blah, 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 blah. And this is one of our newer guys. He's been here about 2 months, and he rocks. Like, he has, like, fixed so many appliances. He does things that when I call over the radio, I'm like, hey, can someone do this? It's an emergency. Like, there's a leak from whatever. Someone needs to go right away. And I get, like, radio silence from the 16 other fucking people on the maintenance staff. This guy will be like, hey, I'll head there now. And boom, on it. Like, he fucking rocks. And apparently this lady was like saying like, I don't know where the fuck you find these people and stuff like that. He's Latino. Like very American Latino, but like there was a hint of some stuff going on there.
Sure.
And so she's like, and he apparently was like right there while she's like going on this tirade about like all this stuff. And so like, and he left like partway through because she was just being a psychopath. So I'm dealing with her. She's like screaming at me, and I'm telling her basically, ma'am, like, my goal is to give you a functional washing machine. Yours doesn't work. I don't have a brand new one to give you. I have one that does work that my guys are prepared to install. My guys are standing in the rain. This was at the start of the rainstorm on Monday. They have this washing machine. They're standing out in the rain basically with it, like ready to bring it in and get her going with it. And she is just cursing at me, screaming at me, interrupting me every time I try and talk. And I get to the point where I'm like, hey, lady, like, do you want the washer or not? No, I don't want this washer. I want a new washer. This is absolutely ridiculous, yada, yada, yada. And so after about 5 to 6 minutes of getting screamed at and treated pretty hostily, which, I mean, my coworkers were right there by me listening. One could hear it through the phone because of how loud this lady was. The other, and both of them are hearing me calm, even tone, talking to her, trying to be like, hey, all I want to do is help you out.
Right.
And after doing that for about that long and going nowhere, I eventually just go, ma'am, if you want this conversation to continue, you're going to have to stop swearing at me, stop raising your voice, and stop interrupting me. And then she interrupts me and starts going, you just keep saying the same things again and again. And I'm like, that is because this is my solution for you. There is no other solution. Your solution is to not have a working washing machine, or to take the one that I'm providing for you that my guys will test in front of you, show you that it works, so that you can do your laundry. Like, that's why I'm saying the same thing, because this is it. Like, this is the deal. Like,
that's all there is to
say. Take it or leave it. I don't want that washing machine. Like, keeps yelling at me and everything. I'm like, all right, ma'am. I'll have someone from the office. I'll have either the leasing manager or the property manager reach out to you. This conversation is over. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Hung up the phone.
Got him.
And like, it's like, nothing makes my blood boil more than when I'm actively trying to help someone and they're just being extremely like nasty and rude to me when I'm like really like I did more than I should have to try and like accommodate this lady, especially with how she was acting. So that just like is one of my that's one of my buttons. And she was like, I don't think she knew she was pushing that button, but she was like, I was hot under the collar. I was not pleased. For sure. Like, to the point that when I hung up the phone, the first things that left my mouth were just "fuck you," like immediately after I hung up the phone. Which, I mean, understandable. I was annoyed. Yeah. But then, like, this lady, later on, the property manager calls her and she tries to tell the property manager that I am a liar and that she like told me that she did want that washing machine and like this and that. The property manager's like, I was sitting right by him.
Dude, like, that's brutal. Like, accusing somebody, like, lying to accuse somebody of lying, and then you get called. How, like, what is going on in the world, man? What is in the water?
I don't know, but, like, this lady is a psychopath, but it was just a confirmation of, like, to me, it was like, I was happy I handled it how I did, because, I mean, I can deal with it. I've been screamed at so many times. Yeah. I've been screamed at so many times. I've had people throw things at me. I've had people be like in my face, like poking me in the chest, screaming at me, like, and it doesn't bother me. Like, I do like to talk about it afterwards and like vent kind of, but like it does whatever the saying, no skin off my back, or I can't think of it. Is that the saying?
I think that's a variation of it. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
like
fine.
I'm just
Like
like
no skin off my back. No, yeah, I think that's it actually.
I think it's it. But anywho, it's just like like at the end of my
Right.
day, I get to go home and chill, and you get to go stay being an angry, mean, terrible human
Without a
being.
washing machine.
Yeah. And our regional manager the next day, I was like telling her about this. She's like really, really cool. And the one girl in the office was like, I've never seen her be like that. She's always so polite to me and blah, 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 blah. And the regional manager goes, I've told you guys that she is a terrible human being. And none of you guys listen. Like this is like this is what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I'm like,
Jesus, man.
woo, hallelujah. Like I got
Well, at least it came out. Yeah, at least evidence.
yeah. So I was like, this is just. So that was my thorn. It just like
Jeez, man.
just really pushed some buttons for me. But I mean, I handled it as best I could. But it was a very unenjoyable part of my day.
Question. Now, is there any precedent for her to believe that she should have been getting a brand new washer? Or that was just in her head canon? That's just what she wanted?
Just in her head. Like, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, like if we had a new washer and like that was the easiest thing to get to her. Because, like, with these like used washers and everything, typically they've been either like maybe someone someone had a mismatched set where like one had been replaced or something and the other one hadn't in a apartment, and then when they moved out, like we put in a brand new set so that they're matching and they both are like the same age and everything, and pull the other ones and have them like as backups kind of thing.
Yes, I
So
gotcha.
like there's that kind of thing. So if we didn't have anything like that, yeah, like I could have gotten her a new washing machine. Right now, though, if she wanted a new washing machine, it's probably going to take at least 2 weeks to get here because of how backed up appliances are. So like,
Right,
I'm
right.
also not only like getting her something like pretty much right away, like after one weekend without a washing machine, but I'm also like not making her wait multiple weeks to get something in.
Right. Well, and I think what's also funny is like, so she just wanted, and you'd have to like comb what the email actually said, but if she said she wanted a new washer in the email, it'd be like, lady, it is a new washer, right? It's like newer than the model you had, and then the language changes to like, I wanted a brand new, like,
right, like
yeah. That's just so brutal.
And when they took it out to her, it's not new, it's not in the box. Like what? I'm all right.
Yeah, what are you gonna do, lady?
Yeah, so that was my thorn. It was it's like one of those aspects of the job that I really don't like to deal with, but I used to kind of shy away from those things a bit more, because I just don't like confrontation. So I used to just really avoid a lot of those things. But in recent times, I've gotten much better about just taking it head on, and just not only killing them with kindness, because I stay very professional, polite, cordial throughout the whole thing, calling them yes ma'am, no ma'am, ms, like whatever, like treating them with respect, but also like I have had instances with difficult people like that I've been able to be like I was with that, where I'm like, I am not going to continue this conversation with you unless you treat me with the due respect that I'm treating you with. Otherwise, this is over, and we can discuss again later once you decide to be a grown adult and talk to me like a human being. And I've had to do that a couple times recently, and put people kind of, or knock people down a notch to try and get them to act a little more reasonably. And I used to not do that at all. I used to, in the hotels that I was at, I would just like take the abuse because I knew that it like wouldn't bother me that much. Like at the end of the day, like I'd go home and I'd pass out and be like,
Right.
whatever, like that person's on to the next place. I don't have to deal with them anymore. But yeah, so I'm kind of happy that I've grown a little bit in that aspect where I'm just like, instead of just like taking the abuse, and I used to do it for my front desk employees too. When people were being terrible to them, I would step in and I'd be like, okay, no, you're not going to be terrible to my staff anymore. You can just be terrible to me because I don't like, you're not going to hurt my feelings kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like pick on someone your own size.
Yeah, I would step in and just let them like verbally abuse me and treat me like crap because like I didn't care what they think. It hurt my feelings less than it would hurt my staff's feelings. So I was like, whatever, I'll take it on the chin. But I think that's kind of like almost what we were saying a little bit before too, of like those people are not being told that this is like not the way to talk to people.
Right.
So like even though I was benefiting my staff at the time and it wasn't like hurting me at all because I was like, get out of my face kind of thing. Like those people are probably going off and still treating other people like shit because they're bad people. So I don't know. Maybe it'll make her treat people a little better. Maybe it won't. But I stood up for myself a little bit, which is kind of nice. So
yeah, I definitely appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then for my seed, I guess since still got that part of this, I did just actually right before the episode, I put in an application for a new job. It has nothing to do with me getting screamed at.
Nice.
No, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and sent me a link. They said basically like, we looked at your LinkedIn and we feel like your skills and everything would be valuable in this position potentially. So here's the link to the site to apply. Send us your resume, that kind of thing. So I did it. I don't know if that is going to be even something that I necessarily want to do. It looks like there are a lot of aspects I think I would be good at. But I'm at least entertaining it and going to see how the chips fall. And maybe they'll offer me the position. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll offer it and I don't take it. Maybe they'll offer it and I do take it. Don't really know. I haven't decided how I feel about it because I would rather sit on a beach somewhere and drink Mai Tais than work another day in my life. But that is not the world I live in. So if I
not yet anyway.
So if this works out, we'll see if I decide to take it or not. But at least I will see if they want to interview me and see how that goes. So
that's what's up, dude.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks, man. So
nice.
I'll check it
I'm
out
excited.
and also it like gives me an opportunity to learn about, because it's a little bit of a different position than what I'm doing right now. So it could give me an opportunity to like maybe figure out a little bit more of like what I actually would like to do long term. And I am at a point in my job right now that I'm kind of like, this is going to end up being a little bit of a dead end. Like I don't need to leave my current job for any reason. Like I'm fine where I'm at. But if a good opportunity arises, like,
You should probably take it.
yeah, why not?
Yeah, man.
So
I agree.
So we'll see where that goes. That's why it's my seed. Some potential future good things, or just like helping me figure out life a little bit more. So
Nice. I like that.
But I guess that takes us through the rose, thorn, and seed a little bit.
Probably the longest of that segment that we've done so far, but I think it was worth it. I think we learned something.
Definitely. I think it's good to talk through a lot of that stuff. So I know for everyone, we usually have our Formula One segment kind of right now.
There was no race.
Going to still have that. I do want to give a initial introduction, I guess, not about the topic with Formula One that we're going to be primarily discussing today, but we have the British Grand Prix coming up this weekend. So that is starting on Friday. So we have practice session 1. But also, the reason I wanted to bring that up, for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, this is going to be the first sprint qualifying race weekend of the F1 calendar.
I forgot about that. That's
so,
right.
Practice session Friday, then we have qualifying Friday, then we have practice 2 on Saturday, sprint qualifying on Saturday, which will be a 17-lap race, 100 kilometers, which I think comes out to like 16. I did the math. It's like 16.98 laps. So they'll just do 17 laps at Silverstone for the 100-kilometer race, which will determine what the race grid will be for Sunday's full race.
Right.
Open tire choice for the sprint qualifying. There are no tire restrictions. Everyone most likely will be on the mediums, I would think.
Right.
But, since it's 17 laps. But they will be able to choose what tire strategy they would like to be on for that, as well as for the race on Sunday. There will not be any lock-in of specific tires for people making it to Q3 like they're typically, bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Like there would be on a normal race weekend. Typically the top 10 people have to use whatever set of tires they used for their fastest time in Q2. That is all up in the air. So depending on weather and whatnot on Sunday, we could see some different tire strategies for some of the top teams than we typically do. I feel like they typically end up on pretty similar strategies, barring a few differences here and there. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like most of the teams follow the same tire strategy when they're at the top of the grid. So based on how they what they used for qualifying. So It'll make it a little more interesting. We'll get a taste of the sprint qualifying, give us a little more to talk about. But I did want to mention that before we got into a little bit different side of our F1 talks, since that's coming up this weekend. So
well, before we do the alternate topic, do you want to preview the race coming up this weekend? Do you have anything interesting to say about the race coming up? Anything that you're looking forward to?
Not a ton other than, well, it's at Silverstone. So for that, I mean, it's been a Mercedes-dominated race location for a while. It is also Mercedes' kind of home track, as it were, just like Austria is the Red Bull home track. So obviously it has been a Mercedes-dominated track typically because Mercedes has just in general been so dominant over the past 8 years. So Mercedes has won like 7 of the last 8 British Grand Prix.
Gotcha.
But that being said, even though I think Red Bull has a better car currently, it is going to be interesting because you will get to see how comfortable Lewis and Valtteri are, because that's like the track that they have raced at the most or practiced at the most and whatnot.
Right.
So we'll have an opportunity to see if that comfortability kind of plays into it, similarly to how Max looked just extremely comfortable at the Red Bull ring. But that's, I think, the main thing for that. I don't think there's anything outrageously different that that really piques my interest, I guess, going into this race weekend. So
Gotcha. Okay. The only thing that I wanted to say is let's all remember last year with Lewis, where this was the race where he made it over the line with that busted tire.
Yes,
getting chased down by Max. That's just fun little history.
Well, and Max does actually have he has the lap record from last year for the track.
Oh,
So,
that's sweet, actually. Okay.
so
I see that.
yeah,
127.
Lewis didn't put, even though he won the race on 3 tires, he did not put in the fastest lap on 3 tires.
Wouldn't
So
that be something? Wouldn't that be just like the most like paradoxical thing to happen in F1? People be like, wait,
I just
what?
don't know if it's actually possible. I just can't imagine, but it should be a really solid race. 52 laps. It's a fun track. There's some really fast sections of it, some fast turns and everything. And it should be a pretty exciting race. Hopefully, going into with the sprint qualifying and the race on Sunday. So
Yeah. Because I know we introed sprint races at the beginning when they announced it going into the season, but this will be the first one, like you said, of the season where we have it. So I'm quite looking forward to it. So we have free practice starting on Friday, and then obviously the weekend will continue from there. So yeah, 2021 British Grand Prix at Silverstone this weekend. Look forward to something from us, maybe like a qualifying sprint race thing, maybe a race companion. We'll see for this weekend. Stay tuned.
We'll be doing something.
Yeah, for sure. But the reason I say it that way is we've been toying around with some ideas, maybe some different style videos we can bring you guys, some different type content to keep it interesting, keep it wild, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll see. We'll have some sort of content out on the YouTube channel this weekend. It won't be on Anchor, so if you are listening on Anchor, Spotify, any of those podcast platforms, just check out the YouTube channel, and it will be there. So.
Yeah, because we don't do audio only for the race companions. That is a video special. So.
Yes, so YouTube exclusive for those. But I guess speaking of the British Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton, home track and everything, you and I had a little bit of a start of a discussion the other day about, or a couple episodes ago, about Lewis and how he was acting after the qualifying session where he qualified.
Hold that thought. Craig,
yes.
Stop recording.
Oh. Technical difficulty.
Now recording.
All right, cool.
There we go. So speaking of Lewis, Justin, you and I had talked previously about Lewis and kind of how he was acting after the qualifying session where Max had qualified first. I think Valtteri was third and Lewis was second, so they didn't really go.
I forget what race it was.
Or it might have been, I think it was the Styrian Grand Prix, and I can actually probably pull up the information just to double check myself. But he was kind of like pacing back and forth. It was the Styrian Grand Prix because Max finished P1, Valtteri finished P2, and Lewis finished P3 in the qualifying. So for whatever reason, Valtteri was interviewed first, even though he was P2. Then Max was interviewed second, who was P1 to start. And then Lewis was kind of in the wings waiting for Max's interview to finish to be interviewed as one of the top three for the race.
Right.
And Lewis was kind of like pacing back and forth in the camera, just looking really like distraught almost, or just like very like out of sorts about I guess how qualifying had gone and everything. So that kind of directed us to look a little bit deeper into like why Lewis was acting like that and everything. So Justin, I don't know if you want to kind of lead off with like your thoughts of why he was acting like that, and then we can kind of take it from there with what we wanted to discuss for for the topic.
Yeah, so I think so my observation of it originally, like when we were first talking about it, was it seemed really odd. It seemed like he was very aware of the camera position. It seemed like he was very aware of like the frame that he was going to be in frame where he was, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was like a shark like element to it. He's kind of pacing back and forth. He's like, you know, he's got the head looking around, like he was looking for when it was his time to talk.
Yep.
Right? And if I remember your reaction correctly, your thing was that, oh, is that kind of rude? Is that a little unsportsmanlike? Like, come on, let just Max have his day, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of your thing.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
because Max is up there being interviewed, and like the cameras are pulling away, they're panning to Lewis, they've got Lewis in the foreground and Max being interviewed in the background, and even though the audio is Max and the interviewer talking and everything, like I don't remember a single thing that Max said from that interview because my focus was completely pulled by Lewis being what I saw as like a distraction from someone who deserved a moment to kind of bask a little bit in a really solid qualifying performance. So.
Mm-hmm. And this is where the deep dive started, the development of the kind of the point where my response was then, I just don't think he knows what to do with himself. I don't think he knows how to be second fiddle or third fiddle or whatever it's going to be, fourth fiddle. Like, he hasn't had that training. All he really knows how to do is win, have that first interview, whatever it's going to be. And while I do agree with you, I think there is a more sportsman-like route to go. And this was to quote Mark Norman, here's the clinker. I think it goes a whole lot deeper, right?
Yeah.
And to illustrate that point of he doesn't accept second place, he doesn't like, to illustrate what that is in terms of a great racing driver or just a great competitor in general, I think it speaks more to his mindset about winning and trajectory and championships than it speaks about that single moment and him wanting to steal the camera.
Yeah. And it comes down to, if you want to just simplify it, like, Lewis is not a loser.
Mm-hmm.
He does not like to lose. He is driven to be a winner, and he has done that many, many, many times. He knows how those interviews and those races and everything go when he is on top. He does know how to have the interview that Max probably had, if I could have fucking focused on it, where it's like, yeah, the team has the car in really good shape, and I just felt really comfortable out there, really smooth kind of working with the team, and really excited for the race tomorrow. I think we have a good shot at taking P1 at the end of that race and getting the top step of the podium. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day. Like, Lewis has done that a million times. He's been interviewed for winning more times than any driver in Formula One history. He is a champion. He's a 7-time world champion. So, yeah, like, it's the mentality that someone like that has to have. And it speaks a little bit to, like, what we've talked about previous times, too, about, like, why we like watching these competitive sports and competitive games and everything, is, like, we like seeing the best people in the world who are the best at their craft and everything being the best and, like, doing everything within their power to win come out with the victory and show why they are considered the best in the world at something.
Right.
But
and so with that interview, so you have to wonder, like, okay, so then how did they get to this point, right? So I wanted to look back and see, because I have a small data set about like who Lewis is as a racer, as just a lot of things. I don't know a whole lot about it. So I had to go back and I asked the question, like, was he always like this? Was this like Mercedes training? Like, were they able to maybe groom him into this kind of competitor? Blah 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 blah. I was just curious about where it started, and so I wanted to go back, and thank gosh for YouTube, because YouTube has a bunch of the videos from the 2016 era between him and Nico. I wanted to see how Lewis was reacting during that time period, and see if the second place thing was maybe prevalent then too. And I think what we find is, on the races where he was coming up short, it was very similar. He had the same shark like look in his eyes, the frustration that you could see all the while, giving the like, oh, we love the fans for being out here and blah 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 blah.
He was
But,
so
dissatisfied.
Like he is not satisfied with not being
right.
first.
That's such a good word. So now we have data like across a bunch of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's obvious he hasn't gotten this way just from winning F1 races, just from winning F1 championships, right? It goes much further back. And now, and this was kind of the thing about it, I wanted to look at what does it look like when somebody isn't like this, like isn't so hungry, isn't all about like the race, and maybe they have some other prerogatives in mind. So, from that era, the rival was Nico Rosberg. Now, he had raced in Formula One before. They had raced together through karting, through the other championships like F3, F2. So they had been racing together for a good number of years.
Yeah.
Where
they're the same age. So basically, in all things considered, they most likely have been racing each other since the dawn of time, essentially. Like,
right.
they didn't come in and end up in F1 together as happenstance. They knew each other from that, growing up through driving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it seems like this 2016 season was a long time coming, right? And the sense that I got going back through the footage after the race, and like the race where Nico won and Lewis didn't, and all of the media coverage afterward, I was trying to get a sense of, okay, what does it look like when somebody wins but like left afterwards? Like, that was the most confusing thing to me, where like, why wouldn't you keep going? And there's some things that came out in these videos that I feel are quite telling and really illustrate the difference, and not like between these two racers. That's not the comparison that I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make a comparison between like the different mentalities of it, right?
And so for anyone who is maybe missing this one piece, Nico Rosberg, who is Lewis's teammate, beat him in the 2016 Drivers' Championship, and then that year after finishing that, retired from Formula One racing. So 5 years ago, while Lewis has continued racing and winning championships since then, he won that championship and said, "Thank you so much. Goodbye." So
yeah, which is in my opinion super odd, and there's an element from your side that we'll explore of like maybe when is the right time to go out, right? That's another element of the conversation that we'll get to. Now, like the one thing that like I really looked at was the post race interview where the podium drivers are up there, right? And Lewis is sitting there. Who's number 3? Is it Seb that's up there
it
as
is
well?
Seb, yeah.
Yeah. So Seb I guess was third, Lewis was second, and Nico took first, which gave him the points to win the championship. Blah blah blah. Blah. Like it came down to that.
Sorry. Seb was third in 2015. Ricardo was third in 2016.
Oh,
Seb
it was Daniel
fourth.
sitting up there.
Yeah. So Seb was fourth in 2016. But yeah.
When they were both driving for Red Bull, right?
Yes, so it was Ricardo and Verstappen for that. Or no, Vettel was Ferrari with Kimi Räikkönen that year.
Okay.
So Seb had gone to Ferrari. Maybe it was 2015. Let's see. So, yeah, 2015. Seb went to Ferrari.
Gotcha. Okay. So it was. It doesn't matter who was third.
Lewis, Nico.
Lewis, Nico.
Yes. Yes. Daniel third, Lewis second, Nico first. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. So obviously most of the questions were directed both to Lewis and Nico. Daniel, like the interview wasn't about him, obviously. Now, when the interviewers were asking the questions of both, the impressions of the drivers, how it felt, blah blah blah, what the thing was, Nico is like, it seems like he's falling apart on the desk. He's like hyper emotional. He's falling over his words. He's being it seems like he's trying to capture and remember the speech that he's been like giving in his head his whole life of like when he finally gets that F1 podium, these are all the things I want to say. He talked about like the feelings in the car. He talked about how like, oh, he was so happy to accomplish his dream, but also it made it even sweeter to like take it away from Lewis. And contrast that to Lewis sitting next to him where he's just like, yeah, he did a great job. Feels good to win a championship. Yep. We're gonna do it better next time, and it seems like Nico is just in that victory from a perspective that is. Let me reword that. It seems like Nico's perspective on the victory is coming from a place not of like personal triumph and growth and success and this and that. It seems like he has some ulterior motives and maybe trying to attain an ideal, not necessarily like the thing that he actually wants. Which, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say it's kind of like it was almost like it was a bucket list thing that he was just trying to check off. He's like, I just want to get that thing, and like yes. It's like the final thing on my checklist for F1 that I've gotten my race victories, I've gotten my pole positions, I've gotten my XYZ. I just wanted that driver. I've gotten the Constructors' Championship. Mm-hmm. I want that Drivers' Championship. And he checked it off the list and was like, okay, I did the thing.
Right.
I'm out.
And like that's the I think that's the assessment that I couldn't get to. I'm happy you used those words. It's like exactly. He was checking it off a list where even in the loss, Lewis, like, it's almost as though like he was already past it. He was already thinking of the next year, and
it doesn't seem like someone who just lost the championship for the season. It is like someone who just lost a singular race.
Yes. But all Nico had was that race and that moment and like that interview and this and that, where like obviously like yeah, all the lights are on him, like it's his moment, but like was he in it for the right reasons? And then when you know like, so at that time he hadn't retired yet. That news came out later. But then when you find out that then he is like, you know, taking it and leaving, it's like, oh, like okay, so he doesn't want to defend it. Like that to me is not a winning mentality. It's a bit weak sauce in my opinion. Like if you really were about it, sir, you would step back into that car and defend that title and be even hungrier for it because you know it could be taken away.
Well, and we even see that, I think, in a sense, this year in some of the news that recently has happened in F1, where Lewis, I think, sees himself losing this championship. Obviously, it is not over. There's still plenty of races to go. But with how things are going and how things have gone over the past few races, it seems Red Bull is kind of stepping a teeny bit further ahead each time and really gaining ground to solidify that for them. And what happens? Lewis signs a contract with Mercedes for 2 more years to race for them. As a 36-year-old who has already won the most races in F1 history, who has all these records for leading the most laps in a race, leading the most laps at certain tracks, having the most wins of all time at different tracks. Like, and he's like, nah, like, if I lose this year, like I've got 2 more years that I'm signing up for. Like that's not how this goes. Like
yeah, and then so it's even like, even think of like Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Räikkönen, like these are guys that are still driving and it seems like they're driving for the love of the sport. They love being there, they love being in the car, they're about racing. So and that makes them race to a certain caliber, right? Like you wouldn't say that drivers who are like finishing up in the points and challenging positions and this and that, you wouldn't say they're washed up. Like, so it confuses me when somebody like you said before we hit record, like somebody who arguably could have been in the prime of his life, he's like, no, I think that's all we can do. It's just like, God damn, dude. And just because he's a Mercedes driver doesn't mean that he was supposed to be the greatest or whatever. Maybe that was never supposed to be his story. But I think in a sport that has so much prestige and like the stories of these drivers seem like they're so long, right? They're a part of so many Grand Prix and races. For somebody who talks about the love of the race, like why would you fuck off so quickly?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, I mean, you think about it, and so I'm looking to see because I'm curious. So 2013 was Sebastian Vettel's 4th world championship that he won. In the Drivers' Championship. That was his 4th. 7 years later, he is still driven. You saw it at the end of his time with Ferrari, that he was very dissatisfied with the car that they had him in, with the way that the team was performing. He was not happy and did not, like, he didn't want to go out that way. Like, Aston Martin is not performing as well as some of the top tier teams, but he can be pretty competitive, and he's shown that competitive nature in that car.
And you know he wants to be there.
He wants to be there. Kimi Räikkönen. I don't remember when Kimi's last when Kimi won his Drivers' Championship, but Kimi is he has continued racing, and he has said that he does it because he enjoys it. Like, this is like a hobby for him at this point. Like, he knows with the Alfa Romeo that he's not winning a driver's championship, but he loves and is passionate about racing. He enjoys it. So he has continued to race. Essentially, as long as these teams will let him have a spot in F1, he's about it. And then we see Nico, who he got his championship and then left. And, like, just, like, Lewis, you see him year after year being dedicated, driven. And I know I make jokes about Lewis pretty frequently because I think he can be a bit dramatic during races over the radios and whatnot. Sure. But, like, the man knows how to win, and he is the best racer in F1 history, like, bar none. And it just is such a difference in the way that they look at things and the mentality to see someone like Lewis, who he lost that season. He lost that driver's championship in that last race. He was 2 points up on Nico. Nico won the race. Ended up, sorry, my mistake. Nico was 12 points up on Lewis. Lewis won the race. Nico came in second, so 7-point difference. Lewis lost by 5 points in that.
Okay, gotcha.
But even in that race, at the end, and they talk about it in these interviews afterwards, Lewis was holding up the pack to allow Seb Vettel, Max Verstappen, and both of them, who were right on Nico's tail, to potentially get past him and push Nico down the grid far enough that those 5-point, like, Lewis wanted Seb and Max to beat Nico, and he would have won the Drivers' Championship by a single point.
Right.
He held up that pack so much. Nico finished 0.439 seconds behind Lewis in the race. Seb finished 0.843 seconds behind Lewis. So only 0.4 of a second back from Nico. And then Max was only another 1.2 seconds behind.
Oh, wow. Lewis, so they just like... Pew, pew, pew,
Lewis was driving and holding off Nico, not because Nico was pushing him and trying to get past him, but because he was trying to hold up Nico to let guys get past him to win the Drivers' Championship.
Right.
That is such a different mentality that he was doing everything in his power to not let Nico get the points he needed.
Right.
Other than actively literally just taking him out of the race, which would have ruined Lewis's chances as well. But like,
sure, yeah.
But like he did all he could, and they talk about it in the interviews. Both of them do. Lewis says, yeah, like I was trying to hold him up. Like we won the constructors already. I wanted that Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
So it's just such an interesting thing to see. Just the difference in perspective between the two, and it kind of does make you kind of look at and start diagnosing like what are the attitudes, what are the
what's the recipe, man?
Yeah, what's the secret sauce? What what is that thing inside someone that drives them to be a winner like Lewis has been in Formula One, or like there have been people in other sports, Michael Jordan in the NBA, Faker, I think, in League of Legends as well to some extent. I mean, it's a little bit different. It's not as big of a run as some of these
for
other...
Faker, you would have to look at... For Faker, you'd want to look at the year that they didn't make it to Worlds, and then the following year they came back and won it.
Right. And so, like
that to me is more insane than doing it back-to-back.
Yeah.
Like they did before.
Right. And so, like, those are those things, like, they're, to fucking simplify it into a Gen Z meme, they're built different. Like, they are.
Yeah, but the idea is what parts are making up that build and how are they different? And I think that's what we're exploring. It's like, it's a hunger to... I'm not, and I'm not even sure. And a hip hop line comes to my head where they say like the only opponent I have is like the guy in the mirror. So I think it's the ability to look at your competitors as obstacles in the way, but understand that your greatest challenge is the laziness, the weak sauce, the guy in your head that says like, nah, you ain't shit, nah, you can't do it,
or even complacency. Like, you would see Lewis win races in the past few years and still be dissatisfied with different aspects of the race, and with different, like, that there is
always finding something to tweak and improve and say, where did I go wrong?
It's kind of a perfectionist mentality.
It
like
is,
you are looking for everything that you could have done better to be that top of
the class. Yeah. So it's to like you said, to your point. So it's like, so what if it's elements of a perfectionist personality and like adrenaline junkie? Not for like F1 racers specifically, but like when you win, there's like there's a feeling that you get. You're like, you know, that fuck yeah, you get a rush of endorphins and dopamine and serotonin. So what if it's like this happy marriage between like adrenaline, thrill seekers, they want to win, and then perfectionism, where every loss or even every misstep is a way to relearn or improve or change something, get rid of that and use that instead. And it's like a hyper self-criticalness, right?
I think, yeah, and I think that that's super important, because perfectionism can also display itself in such a negative side where they're just like constantly dissatisfied. This is not only being a perfectionist in that they're not satisfied with anything less than the best, but they're also actively thoughtful about what is needed to be done to get them there. They are not just like, it wasn't perfect, I'm upset. It's like, it wasn't perfect, I'm upset, how can I stop myself from feeling this again? What do I need to do?
And then they go to work.
And it's those things. It's a mix with athleticism as well in sports, obviously, because that does come into play. But like, it's kind of, it's like a marriage of that perfectionism, growth, and like like being self-critical, and athleticism to kind of get to the peak, and athleticism in a sense of, could be like with video games, it could be reaction time, it could be like your sense for the game, it could be these different things, your knowledge, or in something like racing, it could be your reaction time, your like experience, your things like that, and other sports obviously have a little
and you're
bit
just
more.
Talking about like honing of the fundamentals,
right? Exactly. So like, there is the ability to have that in every sport, and so you do see people like Michael Jordan who are constantly using things as motivation to drive themselves to be better and to beat people. You do have people like Kobe Bryant who, like, he has, people talk about the Mamba mentality. That is Kobe Bryant's mentality of, I will get to the gym before you, I will leave the gym after you, and I will make sure that I am better than you so that I can pull that out when I need it to beat you. Like, that's a different breed of
competitor.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's fascinating to get these starkly different mindsets and perspectives, even within the same sport that demands so much of an individual. It's obvious that there's even room there still for some form of weakness, right? Whatever that may be. And who knows? Like, we're making a lot of judgment calls about Nico as an individual, but I think we just want to use like the events as an example. I don't want to make an example out of him. I don't know the guy.
It could be, hey, well, and at the same time, like, hey, if that is what he wanted in his career and everything, and he took it and went, and then, like, hey, good for him. Like,
maybe it was a safety thing, right? Like, for family and child.
Yeah, if that's, like, all he was looking for and he accomplished it, hey, like, credit to him. He did what he came for. But at the same time, like, it just shows, like, very clearly in a side-by-side, like, picture the difference between him as a competitor and someone like Lewis, who is just a higher level of competitor.
Yeah, it's crazy. And what we were getting to as well was the element of, like, when is it the right time to leave a sport that you're considered a great, or when is it the right time to change career paths or whatever?
Yeah, and I think that is the thing that makes it difficult, because there are people like Lewis, but they just kind of hang on for too long. Like, a few that came to mind for me personally, from, like, my knowledge of other sports, were Brett Favre, who, when he retired and then decided that he didn't want to retire and came back into the NFL and ended up going to play for the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings after being with the Green Bay Packers for something like 15 years. And he didn't perform extremely well with those other teams. He didn't perform terribly, but primarily his last season, it was just, like, tough to kind of watch this person who is a great and who is so driven and competitive to be unable to perform at that same standard that they had held themselves to for so long, and to kind of fall off. So it's like there's that difference between having that mentality, but you can also see it in they were still just driven to be a competitor after their
faculties declined.
Yeah, probably should have called it. Dominic Hasek in hockey, he was a goaltender.
From the perspective of their legacy, they should have called it. But if that's, like, the right thing for them, like, if that's that's a true competitor. That may not be like a winner. That's a competitor, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Doing it for the love of the game, wants to stay, or at least realized when he was away how much it was a part of him and how much he missed it.
Right. Well,
I think there is something kind of hokey about coming back to something, though.
Yeah, well, and, like, Dominic Hasek, he retired from hockey twice. He retired once, came into the NHL, came back into the NHL, retired again, then went to play in, I believe, the Czech Republic or Russia. So he, like, when he retired multiple times, he was one of the greatest goaltenders in all of hockey history. Like, phenomenal goaltender. And, like, it's just this drive that some of these people, like, who have been at the top who have been there performing the best, and they like it shows in their drive to want to continue to keep playing. And not that I'm saying that by any means that Lewis is like, I don't want people to misconstrue and me think I'm saying that, oh, Lewis, he's been at the top for a while, he's gonna start declining and he should probably retire. Like, that's not
Past
what I'm
his
saying.
prime, he's washed up, dude.
Like, but yeah, like, and Kimi Räikkönen, he won an F1 championship. He has been driving in F1 since 2001. This is his 20th year in F1. Like,
Damn.
he has been driving in F1 almost as long as Yuki Tsunoda's been alive. Like, let's see when Yuki was born. So Yuki has been alive 1 year longer than Kimi has been driving in F1.
Dude, that's crazy.
Like, that is someone who loves what they do and is passionate. Like, it's just, it's a little different because he was at the top, but it was for that 1 year. But he still enjoys the competition enough, though, to continue to compete to the point that, yeah, he's been in F1 for 20. He started in 2001. Yuki was born in 2000.
Right. Jeez, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. So it's a pretty tough call, obviously, to make for anyone. No one, I think, if you love something, it's always hard to let it go. But you do want to see these competitors like kind of at the top of their craft, but like I don't know if there is necessarily a right time to like leave anything if that's what your true passion is. Like it's tough from the fan perspective, of course, to see some of these greats like decline and not perform as well. Even to the sense of Michael Schumacher, he came back and raced for Mercedes for 2 years after retiring, and ended up like his last season in F1, he finished 9th in the drivers' standings. Like,
right.
For someone who up until Lewis had been kind of considered the greatest of all time, even up until recently with Lewis when he started surpassing Michael's records, like that's not kind of how you want to think of him in that. So
right, you want the graph to end up here. You don't want to see it go like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's from the fan perspective though, too. Like, it's not from that person's personal
I think that's the ultimate point to be made, yeah.
Yeah, and so
is you can't make the decision for the individual. You have to understand that the person that you're watching that gives you so much joy on a Sunday, or like you love watching, Monday Night Football or whatever it is, like that individual is still a person, and they have to make the decisions that are right for them and their family and the ones around them. We're not trying to make qualitative statements about their decisions, just using these individuals to just explore what it would be to leave a sport that you're great in, where you have a fan base, where you did mean something. These are all just like interesting questions to ask, that one day when we're at the top of the podcasting game, people are going to ask us. They're going to be like, how do you know? How did you know when it was time to give the show up? And we're going to say, we didn't, bro. We didn't. We just...
Sometimes you just got to hang up the hat.
Yeah. It's one day we're going to have our own Black Album, and it'll be the tall and short of it remastered.
Yep.
And we'll come out of retirement, and then you fucks can say, it kind of fell off,
I mean, there's logic. Well, and this is we both saw this with kind of coincidentally that Logic announced that he is coming back to the rap game after about a year of retirement. But it's just funny to me that so many people are using this quote. So his quote that he released in his statement was just "I'm back," which is a Michael Jordan quote from when he came back into the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely kind of funny that people are still are using that, taking that from Michael Jordan for any time something like that happens. But just as a kind of a side note on music for someone who is doing a similar thing to what we were just talking about. So
yeah, having success and then dipping out unexpectedly, sort of, and then deciding like, I want to be back a part of this. And who knows, maybe it's a financial concerns. You don't know what obligations he had.
maybe he just had a great idea for an album. Is like, oh, I want to make this, and it's a passion thing for him that he is like, I want to make this music. So
it makes me think of like the never say never thing, where it's like, okay, then why do you have to do the whole like, oh, I'm leaving retirement, blah 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 blah, just to do it again? Like, there's nothing that says like you can't just release a project and then just go quiet for 3 years. Like that's okay, and then you get best of both worlds, where you don't have to make music, and then you still retain like rapper, and then you don't have to do this whole. But then it makes me think, like, is it just like a marketing thing? Is it?
It is a
perception.
It is a bit weird for something like rapping and music, because it's like, yeah,
like, did Kendrick Lamar retire? No, he didn't. Like, he still considers himself a rapper. Like, even if he's doing a myriad of other things. Well, he's not,
and also like with that, like in sports you have to retire, because like
in hip-hop you don't have to.
Because people are signing you to a team. You're taking up a spot on a roster if you do not retire.
Oh, that's
like you are.
Right, that's
like
funny.
You're not doing that in the rap world. Like you can just be there. Like you don't have
You're
to
not holding anybody's spot. Yeah. It's not like there's only a grid of 20 rappers available.
Mercedes isn't like we gotta pay this guy, but he's just not gonna drive for us. So like he's just kind of sitting at home. Like that's just not a fucking thing,
dude. Yeah, that's so dumb.
Yeah. So that's definitely an interesting side of it. But just nonetheless to say, from our discussion about that, I think it was fun to kind of go into like thinking about a little more in depth about like what does make someone like that great and that have that champions mentality comparatively to just like the average competitor or anything like that. And no shade to Nico, that was just an apt comparison to have him side by side with Lewis.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was kind of a fun topic to explore a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure we probably like put the pin in it like way back if we did our when we did our Styrian Grand Prix episode. I'm sure there were like shadows of this conversation in that episode. So to anybody listening, sorry it took so long to develop it, but
we wanted to make sure we could flesh it out a little bit, talk it through,
and not just make like banal average, just like, well, he's a winner and he sure isn't, like that kind of thing,
or take away from a week that we're talking about like a race or anything. We wanted to do this and do kind of a little deep dive on an off week. So
Yeah, 100%. Because as I'm sure you're noticing, this is taking up a decent amount of the allotted time. But yeah, looking forward to seeing more greatness from a decent amount of drivers. I'm happy to see Lewis not retiring for at least another 2 years. Looking forward to the British Grand Prix. Any other thoughts there, Aaron?
Looking forward to some LCS coverage that we've got coming up. That's kind of what I am starting to look at. I know we had one of the same games. You don't know which one it is that we are looking at. And then a lot of pretty interesting games this weekend actually. So Justin, for day one of the LCS Friday this past week, which game did you have?
So for the Friday, and you'll see a theme here. For Friday, I had the Cloud9 versus Flyquest game.
Which is what I also had.
I had a feeling. So the big note that comes out of that one was it's a Flyquest victory, but Fudge was like 14-6 in that game. And the other interesting thing is this is the first game where FlyQuest swapped out their whole starting roster and put in their academy squad.
Yes. So definitely an interesting aspect for that. And their academy squad though, like I mean they are like good quality player. I mean, Kumo got some LCS play time with C9. So did Diamond a little bit, I believe, here or there, or at least they were competitively scrimming. I know Kumo did. Can't remember if Diamond did, but they were both competitively scrimming the LCS team for Cloud9 before they were sent to Flyquest. But no, the Flyquest Academy roster came in and played extremely well. I don't think they should have won that game.
No, neither do I. And that was my point about Fudge on Akali. Like, that's insane, dude.
Cloud9 just didn't know how to close that out, and I think it kind of was due to them losing that team fight around the Baron, the first Baron. They had aced Flyquest previously, and then they took a bad fight and got aced and ended up losing Baron, losing a lot of ground, and even through that, dragged that game out to be 27 kills to 25, less than 4,000 gold difference at the end of the game. It's rough seeing seeing C9 lose that after how they played. So
yeah, the other element about it was the Twisted Fate and Nocturne. I don't think were comboing that well together. I don't think they were pressing their alt buttons as much as they should have been, which means that FlyQuest wasn't giving them the opportunities. Which means that the Academy roster FlyQuest was playing with great macro game, playing around Cloud9's champion picks really, really well, not giving them the opportunities. So yeah, just like a lot of angles, and this isn't to say Cloud9 was playing badly at all. I just don't think FlyQuest was giving them the openings.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of that, but it's also I think Cloud9 not utilizing their team comp the way that they should have, because Twisted Fate and Nocturne end game are not gonna be they don't scale great into the late game. They have a really strong mid game spike, but like as people get a little tankier, get more items, are able to get some Zhonya's hourglasses, things like that, and different defensive kind of protections for themselves. Like those picks just they do fall off like in the late game.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas you have to really utilize those ultimates, like you were saying, in the mid game to really push your advantages. And Cloud9 didn't do that. I really like their team comp, but just they let FlyQuest Academy hang around way too long, and then ended up losing because of it, which is definitely an interesting thing to see there. Mm-hmm. So
I love the 17 assists on NXI. He had like I think that's like 91% kill par or something like that for the Diana.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just insane. So yeah, shout out to FlyQuest. I thought it was a pretty impressive game, and it's a little bit of a theme for the weekend.
Yeah, so then we also had for day two, I'll go for my game.
Go for it
first. But I picked the TSM versus Golden Guardians game to watch because Golden Guardians had kind of been on a little bit of an upswing over the past little bit. They recently had, I'd have to look back a little bit, but they had some pretty solid weeks, at least looking competitive wise, even if they had not won a ton of their games. So I was interested to see kind of how TSM did versus them. TSM played it out pretty well. Like, Golden Guardians definitely hung in it for much longer than I expected them to. But I think that Lost and Spica specifically played just phenomenally through that. Spica has looked really, really good. And so Golden Guardians is still kind of hanging down there at the bottom of the standings. I was trying to see if they were going to kind of start picking it up, but they did not. So that's the main reason I was curious with that. Is just seeing if... seeing how they were going to do. But yeah, TSM was able to handle them pretty well.
I like the mid lane matchup for TSM with the Lee Sin, not necessarily into Akali, but the Lee Sin versus Akali matchup. You have a lot of really good tools there as Lee Sin to.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like your E with the AoE, all you have to do is get it in the shroud, and you have vision of the Akali, which is huge in that matchup. So I think that was definitely super important. But yeah, I don't know. It's not a distrust in TSM. I was just more curious to see how that shook out, and TSM just handled them pretty easily. So there's not as much as I was hoping to have to say about that game, but yeah, I was interested in it nonetheless. But for day 2, you followed the Flyquest team for another game and had Flyquest versus CLG.
And the matchup in and of itself, like, I think even with the starting roster, it could have gone either way just based on both of the teams. But having the success that they had against Cloud9, I was looking forward to seeing how they would do against CLG. And I didn't even have to get through the game to see what was going right and what CLG did wrong. Like, my main note from that game was they gave away both Viego and Gwen to Flyquest in the pick and ban.
We talked about it last week.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like,
why?
Yeah, I don't know how much these coaches are being paid. I don't know what happens up on stage. I do not understand how these teams can have a misread on the meta so bad that they say, yeah, okay, that seems fine. And even in that game, son, it just didn't go well for the CLG plan that they, drafted. They were all right, fine. We're not going to ban either of these two.
And then, they don't ban either of them, and then they just first pick Varus. Sorry. No. My mistake. Flyquest picked Viego, and then they pick Varus Set.
Yeah, right. So they even had the opportunity to take the open Gwen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So brutal. And they got what they deserved. They got their shit pushed in.
Oh, yeah.
That is exactly what you deserve when you draft that poorly. And now I sound like LS. Oh, yeah, they just won and picked Bam, blah, 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 blah. But, bro, that is an oversight and a half.
It's not an automatic win for any team, but it is a huge disadvantage to put yourself at. It's still a game you can win, but, and this is something that I have said many times for North American League of Legends is the pick ban that we actively take is terrible. It is
Yeah.
garbage. We are going to do, like, if we can't even, like, have teams consistently picking and banning properly, how are we setting ourselves up for success internationally? Like, just content being the fourth best region indefinitely, right. I guess.
And it's not like CLG was the one that's gonna like get to Worlds. It's not like they're the ones that we're worried about. But like, yeah, also, it's systemic of the whole.
It just shouldn't happen. There's no reason that should happen. Like, not only did Flyquest put their academy team out there, but their academy team got a better draft than a LCS team, and then proceeded to just shit stomp them.
Which shows that they have a pretty good hold on the meta.
Yeah, like that's just brutal. Like, Pobelter just, is he a top 10 mid laner in LCS?
I think so. I mean, he's got to be, right?
Nah, because they got academy mid laners up here. They're adding to the pool.
That's very true. It would have to be top 20 mid laner.
Like,
and I doubt that.
It's tough, man. Like, why are you putting Finn on set when you could just give him Gwen? Like, why? It doesn't make sense. And then Pobelter picking the Lissandra with against LeBlanc, like, you're
that's a counter pick from like 2 years ago, dude.
But it's a weak counter pick.
It's
like,
a soft counter. You just have tools against her.
You're just saying, I'm trying to not get absolutely murdered in lane. You're not even trying to like have a shot at winning lane. You're resigning yourself and saying, oops, I lost already. Might as well just play this safe thing that, like, maybe I won't die as much. Like, you're just, like, giving in at that point. It's brutal, man. It kills me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I hate counter picks that the sole purpose of them is to just not lose that hard. Like, you're just setting...
just to survive.
You're setting yourself up to lose, but you're like, but I could lose worse if I pick something else. Like, that's not the attitude, man.
I mean, we've seen it from Pobelter before. Like, he's I don't know, that sounds like his kind of champion pick, you know.
Does, but I hate it.
Yeah, he's not winning any Worlds matches anytime soon.
Yeah, so
that was day 2.
Day 2. Day 3, I had the 100 Thieves TSM matchup because top of the table, the game for who is going to be first in the standings. I thought that was going to be a pretty exciting game, and it did not really end up being super, super close.
No.
100 Thieves really kind of controlled that from start to finish. They focused down Huni on the Dr. Mundo. Closer was an absolute monster. That was my biggest note from that game, was that man was all over the map, and everywhere he ended up, he was just getting kills. At one point, he was just 6-0-0. Like, he had no assists, no deaths, and he was just killing people. Like, he was on a murderous rampage. He finished 6-0-3, but, like, it was all just, like, it was the closer show for a bit, and the rest of the team supported him so well. He looked so good. And Abadage with the Silas pick, the counter pick for the mid lane. I thought that was a great pick just based on the utility that you get from the ults from TSM side. You've got Varus ult. You can use Dr. Mundo ult to heal you up if you get chunked out. You've got the Azir Shurima Shuffle, Nautilus ult. Like, those are just all so like, between the Varus and Nautilus ult, like, to be able to lock people down and just let Closer run at people, it was just a combination for success for them there. And so 100 Thieves just continues to look really, really clean.
And they comfortably took that first place spot.
Oh, absolutely. So it's going to be really, really interesting to kind of see how they continue to play, because there's a lot of League of Legends left to play. Still 9 games left for each team, leading up to playoffs and everything. So I'm excited to see them. I think that they could really perform very well going into an international event, and that's the exciting part for me at this point. As we're getting closer to Worlds, it really does excite me that we have a team that looks so clean, like kind of week in, week out. They've dropped some games here and there, but they have looked really, really solid and consistently.
And to your point, clean against the other top North American teams.
Yes.
Like this wasn't like Golden Guardians that they did this to, you know.
Right.
But as a counter to the previous day's game that we were talking about, this is more what the draft wants to look like, where a team is prioritizing the Viego. You saw 100 Thieves second pick the Gwen away, even when both of them weren't banned. So even if they both go unbanned, you have to take one of them. Like
you just have to. You have to.
Right. So this was a better option. Obviously 100 Thieves was able to run away with it. Didn't end up being like about the Viego and the Gwen. Just to comment on just a better pick and ban from both sides, where one team isn't just getting all the advantage, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for your game, we'll follow the theme.
3-0, baby. Triple, baby. Dude, the Flyquest team did it again. They went 3-0 on the weekend. Flyquest Academy. Dude, it's fucking impressive, man. That's why I picked them for all 3.
They earned their spot, in my opinion.
100%, dude.
No reason to switch it out. They've got a tiny chance of sneaking into playoffs there, I think, or do top 8 go to playoffs for? I forget how. LCS
I think it's just top
is.
6.
That's what I thought it was too.
I think it's just top 6.
So they could sneak in potentially. They need some help.
They have to win like all of their games and have people drop some.
Yeah, they really need
head-to-heads.
They really need Dignitas to not lose. But for some reason, I feel like the top 8 were going in previous seasons to playoffs.
I'm not sure. We could be wrong. But yeah, the big thing for that game, I thought, was the NXI on the Lee Sin controlling the early game and just had some heads-up plays. And then Diamond, and I guess it's Tomo, the Varus player, in the 2v2. The Diamond player was doing what everybody hates, where he wasn't even hooking. He was just threatening the hook and like winning 2v2s just from that. It was pretty fucking scary.
It's such a frustrating thing to play against, to just be waiting and you're like, is he gonna? I can't put myself there because.
But then you're both dead. Yeah.
Hook's still up. Yeah.
It's so dumb. So they played that. They played that really well. Took it, like I said, to the 3-0 on the weekend, and really Immortals. They just didn't have an answer from any of the lanes. Reyes was the only one to get any
really kills. Really solid. I
think he's a fine AD carry, but like you're never gonna he could just be perfectly average on a team and just like shining on a team that's not doing so well.
That's fair, but you would think that he would just still be getting shit on a bit more than he has been. You'd think he would just go down with the shit, but it's true, he might just be just better than the rest of the team.
And he's the AD carry player. Like, it's easy to just get a couple kills and look decent. Like, you just got the last hit.
That's true. The stats are pretty favorable for most ADs. So,
but I will say this: he had some highlight reels from the spring split So maybe going into next year, we can expect some better things from him. But right now, I think he's just, I think he's just
the best on a bad team.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, super interesting to see Flyquest Academy team come out, show out, and everything for the week.
Super impressive. And just as a side note for the continuing pick and ban conversations, stop letting them get Viego. They can flex it mid, jungle, top lane. They don't care where it's going. Just ban Viego.
Yeah, just do it. Don't. There's no reason to not do it at this point. Like, ban it or pick it. One of the two. Like, you gotta. Yeah, I don't know. So
it's a tough one. It's a tough one for sure.
But it's not that tough. Ban it or pick it. Like, it's not that hard.
It seems like it is.
They haven't figured it out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because right now, I know we had kind of said for a while that it was like a 3-ish horse race, but Evil Geniuses also went on a 3-0 week this past week. So now we got 100T in first with a 25 win, 11 loss record. TSM in second, 24 wins, 12 losses, so just a game back. EG, Cloud9, and Liquid all tied at 22 and 14. So It's going to be pretty competitive, kind of leading up here into the. Any of those teams still have a shot at first or second place right now too. So like nothing is out of reach to be able to hopefully. For each of those teams try and pick up that bye in the playoffs to the second round. So we'll see how it goes. But a lot of good League of Legends left for LCS going forward. So
yeah, I agree. And like we had talked about before, we're going to start looking into and at least just being privy to what's going on in the other regions as we get closer to Worlds. Maybe take some time out, do some maybe introductions to some of the top teams from the other regions that we should be paying attention to, and all just try and educate ourselves so we can have a fun and exciting Worlds tournament where we know what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. So I am all about that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know this episode's getting pretty long, but the one thing I did want to talk about, Magic the Gathering Commander bans, dude.
All right, let's get to it.
Now, one card was banned this past week. It was a surprise ban, which I think is kind of like part of the thing that I want to talk about, where...
So this was a playgroup ban or a ban by, like, the...
It was a ban from the rules committee, dude.
From the rules...
The governing body of the Commander format.
From Wizards of the...
No, don't get it confused. Wizards of the Coast does not have control of the ban list, but there are members of Wizards of the Coast that are a part of the rules committee.
All right. Hit me with the rules.
They just said that Hullbreacher's banned for Commander. And I linked you Hullbreacher.
You did.
So you can see what he does.
No, you did. So Hullbreacher, so he could be a commander?
No, he can't be a commander. He's banned. You're not allowed to play him in your deck.
Gotcha. Okay, so he's not someone who could have been a commander in a deck, but he is also not allowed to be played in the commander format.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Commanders can only be legendary creatures, by the way.
Gotcha. Okay. I wasn't sure exactly what the trigger kind of thing for what would make someone a commander or not was.
If it's legendary.
That makes sense.
Yep. And Hullbreacher is not legendary, but what he is a pain in the ass. So he's a 2 and a blue for a 3/2 Merfolk Pirate. He says he has Flash. And it says, if an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead, you create a treasure token. So, originally, and what Wizards of the Coast thought, was that he would be a good defensive option against players who were trying to like draw a lot of cards draw their deck. He would be an instant speed answer that said like, no, you're not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to make treasures. But what people would do instead is not use him necessarily defensively, but they would use him offensively in combination with wheel cards. Wheel cards are cards that say discard your hand and draw usually 7, right? So I just linked you Wheel of Fortune, 2 in a red. Sorcery says each player must discard their hand and draw 7 new cards. So with Hullbreacher on the battlefield, what effectively that does is empty your opponent's hands, draws you a fresh 7, and then gives you 21 treasure tokens, which is effectively 21 mana that you can use to spend to cast all those new spells that you just got into your hand. So it empties their resources and gives you just so many. Now, why was it banned? I mean, that sounds pretty shitty, right? But it's not like the worst thing. There are cards that do similar stuff like Narset, Parter of the Veils, Notion Thief. These are all things that do similar stuff.
Okay.
But the fact that it's one, like, you only need one colored mana to cast it, means it goes in every deck that has blue. You could possibly play this card, which is a lot of decks. You don't have to, it's not like a stringent, like, mana cost, right? It's not one a red and a blue, or one a white and a blue, or one blue. It's super easy to cast, is the idea.
Yeah.
And then the combination of the offensive use with the wheels, it makes it brutal. So the idea was that for competitive pods, it was fine. Like that's what people are signing up to try and deal with and problem solve in the more competitive games, right?
Mm.
But people started playing it in casual. Like you would be sitting down and say like, "Hey, this is my statue tribal deck where every card in this deck has an image of a statue on it." It's like, okay, that's cool. But then at that same table, people are getting Hullbreacher Wheel of Fortune, and it's like, this is not the type of play experience, right? Like,
yeah,
Tuna Blue is so fast.
so easy.
Yeah, Tuna Blue is really easy to get to. Like, sometimes I can be turn 1, turn 2, like with a mana crypt, like it's brutal,
and the
dude.
fact that he has flash too, like you
right,
can,
so you can cast it on opponent's turns.
Like,
yeah,
that's
crazy.
That's rough.
So Hullbreacher has been creating a lot of issues. People not that happy about it, and so they banned him. Okay. It had only showed up one time in our play group, and even when it did, we were just like, ooh, damn, Hullbreacher, that's rough. How are we going to deal with that? And then, like, the game went on, right?
Yeah.
But that's our meta, and I think the greater point that I'm using this to talk about is, like, man, people really just need to, like, shut the fuck up and just, like, have that conversation with the people that they're playing the games with.
Oh, definitely. I think that's the whole, like, point of it. Like,
I think that's the beauty of the format.
No one's gonna want to, like, I mean, their play groups, I'm sure, would just be like, yeah, we're not playing with you anymore, man. If, like, the guy rolls up and every deck he's playing has a Hullbreacher Wheel of Fortune, and he's like, like,
right. That would be brutal, man.
Yeah, like, it's not going to come out in every game, but it'll come out in enough that it's just, like, not fun. Like, the goal is to have fun. Commander's not... it's a different format from the standard format. That it's like a format that's supposed to get more people involved, have like a
little larger, more social, a little more about the hang than it is like who wins.
It's still like you can still be competitive with it of course, but like that's just like toxic. That's not fun. Yeah, but I agree that should be like a decision of the play group. Like I'm sure are there. Well, you ban 3 decks of each other's, right?
Right. Well, so like it's a 4-player pod. You have 3 decks banned against you, so then you have a choice of 2. Everybody starts with 5 decks before each game.
Yeah, so you each ban. I'm assuming each of you bans one of the other person's decks.
Yep. So you can just say like, oh, is Hullbreacher in that list? Yeah, it is. All right, ban it, and then done.
Yeah, like
Right.
it's a pretty simple thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And it's just like it just goes to the thing like, do we really want like pseudo like do we really want Wizards of the Coast members like having a say in the ban list? Do we really need a ban list? Like there's all sorts of questions that get wrapped up when a card like this gets banned.
Yeah,
And I
that's
just,
interesting.
I don't know where I lie on a whole lot of this, but I think it's often just an interesting thing to explore just because like I think there's a little bit of like what's the word? Like conflicts of interest, possibly.
Yeah,
Just
like
all
they're
sorts of weird stuff,
they're
man.
creating this, but also banning it from being used in certain. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Like
Yeah,
it's just
it's odd.
weird. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's the easiest way to explain it. So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. Like you definitely will have to keep us up with anything else that kind of comes up because that's definitely an interesting side of things. So
Well, and it's meta changing too. For like, I pay attention to the CEDH meta. I don't like play it. The only deck that I have that can play at that level is Najila. But
yeah,
I don't like I don't play in those pods a whole lot. But I know about them. I know what the meta is. And so what ended up happening is because of Hullbreacher, a bunch of commanders that said draw card on it stopped being like super useful because you would try and set up these big turns where you were using your commander to draw a whole bunch and then you would just get Hullbreachered. So you stop playing those commanders and like opt into these other things. So different strategies are going to emerge. I imagine Thassa's Oracle is going to get super like even more prevalent than she already is. There's going to be, yeah, just like certain shifts. I think overall things are mainly going to stay the same because Hullbreacher is more of a stacks piece. He's not like the win condition.
right.
Stacks being like a thing that prevents your opponents from playing the game. So he's more of a stacks piece than a win condition. But even still, like it's going to change the meta because you always had to worry about Hullbreacher like from like turns 1, 2, and 3. Like it was brutal. Like if they played Mana Crypt Island Pass, that
Yeah.
like that could easily be a Hullbreacher on like at the end of Player Force turn on turn 1.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, bro. That's so hard to deal with. So in a lot of ways I agree with it. In a lot of ways I disagree with it. Tell us what you think in the comments, dear listener.
Let us
What do you
know.
think? Yeah.
Let us know about your Hullbreacher thoughts.
Yeah. Have you ever been Hullbreachered? I've only been Hullbreachered one time, where it was like Hullbreacher and then a wheel.
How fun was it?
It was not that fun just because it took a long time for that player to end up winning. If it's like flashing Hullbreacher wheel and then within a turn the game's over because they used that advantage and killed you all.
But they just used it to drag out the game to eventually.
Yeah, dude, it took like an extra 6 more turns. And it's like, okay, this isn't fun.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah, but no hate on the kid. That's just what happens.
No,
But,
definitely, it makes sense. So,
it's just flavor stuff. But yeah.
speaking of flavor, before we head out of here,
Oh baby, what a segue! Flavor of the week. I started with rose, thorn, and seed. So give me your flavor of the week.
so flavor of the week for me, for food, I always forget what order I go in with this, but for food, this past week, I had a nice fresh chocolate chip cannoli from South Philly. It was
That's so funny.
Why is that funny?
Just because my food's a dessert too.
Oh, but yeah, I was super excited. I'm not typically a dessert person. I don't usually go out of my way to get sweets. I don't have much of a sweet tooth anymore, but the opportunity was presented to have this nice chocolate chip cannoli. Delicious,
Nice.
phenomenal. So very happy about that. I enjoyed it a lot. For my musical, I'm gonna pardon me while I find this song on my phone. I found a band trying to be hip with the kids these days. I found a band on TikTok that I really enjoyed the song. It was actually pretty cool. They were like on Omegle there, where the video was like their band. And
that's
like
awesome.
the TikTok was this guy like pops up on their Omegle, and the guy like looks at him, sees them all with their like instruments and everything. Is like, play me a song, and they're like, all right, let's go. And they're like start jamming, and they have like flashing lights for like when certain parts of the song come up and everything. The band is called Sub-Radio. The song that they were playing is called Caroline, and it just kind of bopped. I enjoyed it. I added it to my summertime playlist that I have been working on. So that is my musical part for this week. For visual media, I have been working my way through The Bad Batch, which is a Star Wars cartoon that's kind of a sequel post Clone Wars type show, which has been very entertaining. I've enjoyed it a lot. I enjoy a lot of Star Wars stuff, but that has been pretty fun to watch. So that is my flavor of the week.
Now, before you go, Bad Batch refers to a group of clones that ignore Order 66, correct?
So, somewhat. So, the Bad Batch refers to, and they come in the end of the Clone Wars final season, but they are a group of clones that were genetically engineered to have specific traits that were hyper... like increased performance in certain traits. One is a sharpshooter, where his eyesight and his like shooting ability is like really good. One his leadership is like his charisma, his leadership, like his like decision making like really boosted. Another guy, his like strength is like boosted. Like, and they lose out a little bit on different aspects of like the clone troopers are, the idea behind them was that they are like the perfect soldier. They have the even, just like they are good at everything, and these like kind of
physically fit, mentally strong, could work together.
So these like hyper focused. So it's a clone squad that is built up of all these like kind of rejects almost that are like not outside the norm of like the millions of clones that are just like the standard kind of clone.
But they still murder Jedi then, huh?
So they, because of their genetic mutations or genetic changes, there is a mix of whether or not they react to Order 66 to kill the Jedi, and whether or not they actually go through with it, based on like the Order 66 triggered a thing for most of the clones when they hear that phrase. It's like, like it just clicks them into this like mode.
Right.
And so because of the genetic mutations and the genetic changes for the Bad Batch, not all of them react the way that was intended.
Are you trying to avoid a spoiler here?
Kind of, but like some of them,
that's fine.
Some of them do, some don't.
Okay,
it's like
that's cool.
Yeah. So.
Okay, because I imagine with her watching The Mandalorian, I imagine I'll get there eventually. So I'm happy to not know all the details.
Yeah,
but that's cool.
For the record, though, personally, I think that the cartoon Star Wars shows are the best parts of the Star Wars franchise. I think they are literally like have the most depth, have the most character development, have the most like just interesting storylines. And if you don't want to watch any filler episodes, there are lists of what filler episodes there are in there, so you can avoid them and just expedite your process through really. But like Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Rebels, in my opinion, top notch for the Star Wars franchise, personally.
Nice. Okay.
So
cool. Good rec, man.
Yeah. So, flavor of the week, Justin.
Vince Staples, self-titled.
Ooh,
I can't stop
yes.
listening to it. It's so fucking good.
It's really good. I've enjoyed it a
lot. It's like 22 minutes or something like that. 10 tracks.
Also, a really easy reason that it is easy to just have on repeat. It's not super long, but it's good.
It's really good. Production's really tight. You can tell Vince had a message that he wanted to get across. It's honestly, the subject matter is pretty similar through all of the songs. It almost seems like it almost seems like it's an in memoriam to like some individuals that he knew, or something similar. But yeah, it hits pretty hard. You can tell he definitely had some thoughts that he wanted to get off his chest. If you're looking for singles, looking for like takes off of it, the song that's stuck in my head, I think it was one of the singles off of it, was "Are You With That?" That's just, I love the beat, I love the cadence, the video's amazing. So yeah, Vince Staples, self-titled, just came out, super good.
Very, very good.
Sarah recently purchased some peanut butter lasagna. It's like some like tiramisu frozen treat with like peanut butter cups in it. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. I've just had like a couple little spoonfuls of it, like really trying to savor it. So yeah, that's just been, it's been too good.
Anything
too good.
Like dessert with peanut butter and chocolate, I'm just like in there. I'm about it. Like
100%. So good. So yeah, that's been fucking me up. And then the visual medium, we watched Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt. Don't.
Done. Didn't know it was a movie. Will not be watching it.
Yeah,
just
the best joke that I could say for that movie is Al Gore came up with a really hot idea for a global warming advertisement pitch.
Ooh.
And he got Chris Pratt to star in it. That's what I'll say about the Tomorrow War. Yeah, think about that. Think about that. It's literally like a 2-hour advert.
Yeah, maybe I'll check it out tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. You should watch it. But yeah, so that's my flavor of the week. Take it away.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of all people, thank you for watching another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. Happy to be here, talk about some different things than usual. Dig a little deeper. You can find us on Anchor, anywhere that you find podcasts, Google, Spotify, everywhere. Find us on Twitter at Tall and Short of 1, the number 1. Keep an eye out on YouTube for our race content this weekend. We're looking to put out something for either the qualifying race, the sprint race, or for the actual race itself on Sunday. Keep your eyes and ears peeled. But I hope you all enjoyed this, and we will catch you all next time.
Pay attention for a new logo. If you see a different set of symbols in your little notification box, do not fret. We're just trying to upgrade. So just take that as note. I will also say, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It really helps out a new channel like us. We would love to hear your feedback. Aaron hit you with the places to find it. YouTube, Anchor, Twitter. Join the conversation. This has been another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. Peace out, everyone.
Adios.